off the back of Vivi, I think the final party member that's given a really thorough story to explore here is Freya. Now, just edging slightly into subjectivity here, I have to confess that Freya is my favourite character in this game, and probably in my top 10 Final Fantasy characters, of any given Final Fantasy game. Her introductory panel states, "Despair. To be forgotten is worse than death." And it's this theme that kind of permeates the latter part of Disc 1, where we wind up in Freya's destroyed hometown of Bramecia, and later Clara, where she discovers her long-lost love, Sir Fratley. The twist of her story arc, where she finally reunites with Sir Fratley, kind of outpours all her emotions to him from the years they've been apart, only to have him no longer recognise or remember her, is really quite a brutal turn for this game, and her grief that follows when he departs again is, really quite powerful. For a JRPG video game with no voice acting or detailed facial expressions, to convey these avatars' emotions, I think the writers and also Nobuo Uematsu's score just succeed brilliantly in communicating Freya's tragedy here. But out of all of this, I think the real reason Freya is such an awesome character is the sheer perseverance, that she has. It's worth pointing out that she is one of the only truly non-sexualized, non-maiden in distress female party members we see in probably any Final Fantasy game. She's a straight talker that has the single aforementioned, outburst of emotion. But then she kind of closes up again and conducts herself with a certain stoicism throughout the rest of the game. She cares about the others in the party, of course, but she's just much more pragmatic and reserved about it, which we simply don't see in any other kind of female leads. She kind of reminds me of Auron in Final Fantasy X in a lot of ways, which is just a really good break from the archetypal and slightly sexist mould that Square usually employs here. By the end of the game, Freya has reunited with Fratley, but much like Vivi, it's a bittersweet ending, to quite a tormented character. The duration of the game, Freya has carried a consistent doubt and consistent, kind of despair that, rather than being resolved as a happily ever after, is kind of met halfway. Fratley has not recovered his memories, but states he will try, and Freya kind of sticks by him with this, and the final FMV shows her applauding, Garnet and Zidane in Alexandria. So, we're left to largely interpret the events from here. In terms of identity, I think this theme is explored less through Freya than it is through Sir Fratley, and unlike the others in the main party, Freya is the recipient of the character with the identity crisis, rather than being a party member that's undergoing it themselves. In the wider scope of the game and how Freya slots in with the rest of the party, I think she works really well, and she kind of falls into this category of the pragmatic reserved addition to the more emotionally charged and driven characters. She and Zidane have some pretty interesting standoffs wherein she quite often checks his passionate, often gung-ho temperament with some sound advice, and likewise he often serves to lighten the mood when she is being too obviously introverted or miserable. As a Dragoon job class, Freya's aesthetic makeup bears resemblance to other Final Fantasies in that she has the winged helm, and of course, she uses the spear. Her battle tactic enables her to use jump and lancet, which are also recurring abilities for this job class.